Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our third annual Hoboken Field of Heroes ceremony, sponsored by the Hoboken High School Student Government. To start our ceremony, I'd like to call up Haley Benway, Senior, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, guys.
So Haley was supposed to mention, and now to lead us in the Star Spangled Banner, we'd like to introduce Mr. Stasiak and the Rockin' Red Wings.
Thank you to the Rockin' Red Wings. Woo! And now to the podium, we'd like to welcome Alexa Bracero, our president, for the welcome address.
Good morning and welcome to the third annual Hoboken Field of Heroes celebration. Thank you all for coming this morning. My name is Alexa Bracero and I'm the president of the Hoboken High School Student Government. The Hoboken Field of Heroes was created to celebrate the men and women of Hoboken, honoring and memorizing their service and sacrifice in the United States Armed Forces. The Hoboken High School Student Government is the representative and government body of the students of Hoboken High School. As president of this government, along with my fellow officers, I can say that the students of Hoboken High School are committed to honoring and remembering these Hoboken heroes. This ceremony and this field is just one way we, the students, want to say thank you. We will strive to follow your example and call to service. Thank you.
And now to read a little something about our field, I'd like to call Jenna Serio to the podium, our Student Government Board Liaison.
For generations, millions of Americans have answered the call to serve, taking the sacred oath to defend and preserve our nation's ideals of liberty and democracy. These patriots represent the best of us. On Veterans Day, we honor their service, dedication, and valor, and are forever grateful for their sacrifice. So many of our veterans carry the scars for their service, both visible and invisible, and it is our nation's responsibility to help them heal. Fulfilling our nation's promise to our veterans and military families, caregivers, and survivors is not only a moral imperative, it is crucial to our national security and to maintaining the finest military the world has ever known. We are a nation that keeps our promises. On Veterans Day, we honor our nation's veterans, who have given so much to protect our freedom and the freedom of others around the globe. They represent the highest ideals for our country, While we can never fully repay the debt we owe these heroes, we will honor their service and provide them the care that they support and deserve. We also salute and show gratitude for all who ensure our armed forces remain strong, united, and unmatched. In respect and recognition for the contribution of our veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors have made to the cause of peace and freedom around the world, we, the Hoboken High School student government, are honored to dedicate this field today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Now, we will be reading the name of honorees for the flags. First up is Madison Walia-Peters, our secretary. Albert J. Caradonio, Sr., United States Air Force. Aldo DePinto, unknown. Alfredo Suárez III, U.S. Air Force. Alfredo Suárez Jr., U.S. Army. Americo Rubeo, U.S. Army. Andy Huayamave, U.S. Army. Angelo Totaro, U.S. Army. Apolla Luce, U.S. Army. Arthur Vander Schauw-Wavy, U.S. Armed Forces. Arturo Martinez, U.S. Army. Lynam, U.S. Marines. Benedict Versaci, U.S. Marines. Captain Ryan Wiltbank, U.S. Army. Carl Insinga, U.S. Armed Forces. Carmelo Ortiz, U.S. Army. Carolyn Dunworth-Griffin, U.S. Armed Forces. Craig Connery, U.S. Navy. Dominic Vitolo, U.S. Armed Forces. Dominic Lisa, U.S. Army. Dom Luciano, Hoboken First Responder. Don E. Ball, U.S. Air Force. Douglas Luce, U.S. Army. Edgar Lee Casper, U.S. Armed Forces. Felix Gonzalez, U.S. Army. Felix Moret, U.S. Army. Francis A. DiPaolo, U.S. Army. Francisco Duroy, U.S. Army and Military Police. Frank Buffalo, U.S. Navy. Frank Gulo, U.S. Navy. Frederick Coheen, U.S. Marines. Graham Heaton, U.S. Army. George Angley, U.S. Army. George E. Gregory, U.S. Marines. Gerald J. Dunworth, Jr., U.S. Armed Forces. Gerald J. Dunworth, Sr., U.S. Armed Forces. Gerard Johnson, U.S. Air Force. H.B. Miller, U.S. Armed Forces. Howard Ivins, U.S. National Guard. James C. Drumgoole, U.S. Armed Forces. Javier A. Rivera, U.S. Navy. J. Bingman, U.S. Air Force. J. Moret, U.S. Air Force. John D. Lewis, U.S. Army. John Deemer, U.S. Army. John Alvin, U.S. Navy. John Moscoletto, U.S. Air Force. John Mosgai, U.S. Army. John Simons, U.S. Armed Forces. John A. Lo Salvio, U.S. Army. Joseph B. Lisa, U.S. Armed Forces. Joseph Kahlo II, U.S. Navy. Joseph D. Drohan, U.S. Army Air Corps. Joseph Gunardi, Altian Islands Navy. Joseph M. Drohan, U.S. Army. Joseph Rubeo, U.S. Army. Joseph Versaci, U.S. Army. Juan Ortiz, U.S. Navy. Catherine Dunworth, U.S. Armed Forces. Catherine McCulley, U.S. Women's Army Corps. Keith Elvin, U.S. Navy. Leonard Marskowitz, U.S. Army. Leroy Lowing, U.S. Army. Louis Michael Taglieri Jr., U.S. Air Force. Louis Vitolo, U.S. Armed Forces. Michael Delafave, U.S. Army. Manuel Dominguez, U.S. Armed Forces. Michael De Palma, U.S. Armed Forces. Michael J. Trumgoole, U.S. Armed Forces. Michael Moret, U.S. Air Force. Michael Pasili, U.S. Armed Forces. Natalie Huayamave, U.S. Air Force. Norman D. Winstead, Jr., U.S. Army. Paul V. McCulley, U.S. Armed Forces. Paul V. McCulley, Jr., U.S. Army. Ralph DeGulo, U.S. Army. Raymond Santana, U.S. Armed Forces. Richard Krantz, U.S. Air Force.
Richard Wygand, U.S. Air Force. Robert A. Dodd, U.S. Armed Forces. Robert J. Adams, U.S. Marines. Robert J. Munoz, U.S. Army. Rodney Ball, U.S. Air Force. Ron Petz, U.S. Navy. Salvatore Salemi, U.S. Armed Forces. Scott Howard, U.S. Marines. Stephen Tirakin, U.S. Army. Terrence L. Winstead, U.S. Army. Thomas Lucassi, Jr., U.S. Navy. Thomas Lucassi, Sr., U.S. Army. Thomas Rosato, U.S. Armed Forces. Tony Lopez, U.S. Armed Forces. Tyrone Montague, Jr., U.S. Navy. Van Walk, U.S. Navy. To all Korean War veterans of Hoboken. To all members of the Hoboken Elks Lodge 74 that served. To all of our fallen Red Wings. To all of our current Hoboken Education Association members who served. To all of the deceased Hoboken Education Associate members. To all of the retired Hoboken Education Associate members who served. To all of the Operation Enduring Freedom veterans of Hoboken. To all of the Operation Iraq Freedom veterans of Hoboken. To all of the Persian Gulf War veterans of Hoboken. To all of the members of the Hoboken American Legion Post 107. To all of the Vietnam veterans of Hoboken. To all of the World War I veterans of Hoboken. To all of the World War II veterans of Hoboken. And to all the unknown soldiers who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn your attention to the Rockin' Red Wings for a musical selection. to the Rockin' Red Wings. And now I'd like to call up senior class member Daniel Weintraub to lead us in a poem called In Flanders Field.
In Flanders Field by John McCrae is a war poem written during the First World War by Canadian physician Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. He was inspired to write it on May 3rd, 1915, after presiding over the funeral of friend and fellow soldier Lieutenant Alex Helmer, who died in the Second Battle of Ypres. According to legend, fellow soldiers retrieved the poem after McCrae, initially dissatisfied with his work, discarded it. In Flanders Field was first published in 1915. It is a common English name of the World War I battlegrounds in Belgium and France. It is one of the most quoted poems from the war. I will now read it. In Flanders Field the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw, the torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow, in Flanders Fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And now I'd like to call up Jacob Kriegel to lead us in taps for our heroes. Thank you, Kobe. And now, finally, I'd like to call up Mr. Munoz to give our closing remarks.
Thank you, Vice President McDonough. I just would like to say, every year, for the past 3 years, we've done this, and it gets more emotional every time we do it. We had so many brave men and women that have served this community. It's overwhelming to hear their names. I'm glad that we do this. I'm glad that the student government honors our Hoboken heroes, and it just highlights the sacrifices some people make for us to allow us to be a community. So I just would like to thank the Rockin' Red Wings and Mr. Stasiak for being here. Kobe for that amazing rendition of Taps. Oh, he's right there. Mr. McCauley, always for capturing our film and putting our message out there to the community. These amazing officers, Alexa, Kendall, Madison, Morgan, and Jenna, who really kind of keep us moving forward, and for leading this government to the future. I really appreciate all your hard work. Daniel, thank you for that amazing rendition of In Flanders Fields. It's actually a very moving poem, and obviously from World War I, and it really, if anyone knows anything about Hoboken, that's where Hoboken was put on the map during World War I. I'd like to thank everyone who made this possible, and of course, Miss Pick. I can't say enough about our principal who allows us to do these things, who makes it possible in this school for us to do these amazing things for the community and have all these celebrations. So I'd like to give a round of applause to Miss Pick. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And I would like to say to the Hoboken community, thank you for participating. Every one of those names you heard was a name submitted, and a flag is there for them on the field. It was a name submitted by a member of the Hoboken or school community. So I would like to thank them for sharing your loved ones with us, allowing us to honor them. And of course, I'd like to give a special shout out to Mr. Taglieri. Every Veterans Day we think about him, our beloved coach who we lost. So Mr. Taglieri, I know you're looking down at us. He was an Air Force veteran. I know he's looking down at us, smiling upon us right now in a field that's named after him. So thank you, Mr. Taglieri, for everything that you did for our school community. Thank you so much, and happy Veterans Day to everybody and the entire Hoboken community, and we will see you next year at our 4th annual. Thank you.